Hey guys, it's Megan. Welcome back to the library. Welcome back to another video. Today we're going to talk about all the books I read in April, or not April. I don't even know. It's not even April right now. February, which obviously is a really short month, 28 days, and I somehow managed to read 10 books. They were pretty short though, but first I'll give you the stats. So I did read 10 books. I read 2,266 pages. 6 books were fantasy, 1 mystery, 1 sci-fi, 1 to 2 horror. 1 was kind of fantasy and horror, so I kind of counted it as both, and 1 nonfiction. I read 7 adult books and 3 young adult, so it's more young adult than usual. I read, 3 new authors, 7 authors that were older to me, which is kind of funny because lately I've been reading a lot of newer authors, so the fact that I read 7 old ones is pretty interesting. Out of the 10 books I read, 9 were written by female authors, so usually it's like half and half, but anyway, interesting. I read 1 physical book, 1 ebook, and 8 audiobooks. So we see where my primary means of consuming audiobooks lies. I read 6 books in a series and 4 standalone. And I think that's pretty much, I had 1 4.5 star read. I had 4 4-star reads, which was really good. So even though there was no 5 stars, 4 4-stars, I'll take it. 2 3.5 star reads and 3 3-star reads. Also there's some DNFs, but I'm gonna make a whole other video about some of the books I've DNF'd recently. So let's just go through and talk about the 10 very quickly. The first was A Mirror Mended by Alex E. Harrow. This is the sequel to, oh my gosh, I just forgot the name of it. The Fractured Fable book. I'll put it here on the screen. Anyway, it's that little Fractured Fable series. It's super cute. I really enjoyed the first one, although clearly I can't even remember the name of it, which is interesting. But it is like, Sleeping Beauty kind of themed, which Sleeping Beauty is my favorite. Oh, A Spindle Splintered. That was the name of the first one. There we go. Which is one of my favorite Disney stories ever, is Sleeping Beauty. So this one though follows more of like a Snow White kind of storyline, but I love the main character. She's really like funny and kind of snarky and sarcastic. She's a little bit older too, so it's not like super young adult, and the writing is just really funny. It's really clever. I literally gave this book 4.5 stars. I think I gave the first one 4 stars. I loved it, and I really hope that this author continues more books in this series. Oh, I lied. No, I gave it 4 stars. Next, I read A Wizard's Guide to Defensive Baking by T. Kingfisher, which I'm now doing for a little program for our school called Readapalooza, as one of the book choices because I love this book so much. I gave it 4 stars. It is very much like Shrek. That's what I heard. Elle from Elliot Brooks, that's what she compared it to, and I totally agree. It's funny, it's whimsical, but there are some serious moments in it too. It does start out with, of course, like a murder, and it's about a 14-year-old girl who's a baker and does baking magic, and literally the only thing she can control is bread. And that's, I think, what I liked about it, is that in all these things like X-Men and stuff, anytime where people have powers, the powers are always like big important powers, but instead of having a big important power, she can just control bread. And winds up basically having to be like the savior of her city. So that's pretty funny in itself. But I loved it, and I love T. Kingfisher, and I cannot wait for her new release, which I think is coming out at the end of March. Then I read Finley Donovan Jumps the Gun by Elle Cosimano, and I was kind of sad because I didn't like this one as much as the first one. And most people, I feel like, are saying the series is going downhill. The Finley Donovan series, if you don't know, follows a character who basically is a writer, but then winds up sort of becoming a hit woman. Not really, but like kind of, and she sort of gets sucked into this plot. And it's kind of ridiculous and over the top and funny. And the first book was like so unique, and everybody loves usually the first book. Like everybody talks about how amazing the first book was. It was one of the best books I read last year. I gave it 4.5 stars. But then the second one I did not like near as much. I think I gave it 3.5 stars. And I honestly thought this one was better than the second one. The plot is just, it's too much of the same thing for me. Like it's kind of the same plot thread all throughout. And if the next one doesn't go somewhere else, I think they said she's contracted for 4 books, so I'm assuming it's gonna be sort of the same plot thread again. But I'm just really hoping it goes somewhere different because I'm kind of bored of the same things now after 3 books of kind of the same mystery and the same bad guys and stuff. So anyway, it's fine, but like I still gave it 4 stars because it's funny, but it's not near as good as the first one. I read A Prayer for the Crown Shy by Becky Chambers, which is a small novella, and it's the sequel to A Psalm for the Wild Built. So it's technically called the Monk and Robot series, and I hear that maybe this is going to be the last one, that there's just going to be the 2. And I found that it was not near as compelling as the first one. The first one was so whimsical and fun because it literally follows a monk who does tea service in this version of the world where robots became sentient like a long time ago and went off on their own, and now they live out in the wild, and they even can like reproduce, and so they're called like wild built robots now instead of like people built. And so in the first book, this monk who's traveling somewhere comes across this wild built robot, and they become friends and strike up a little friendship. And really it was more kind of just about the conversations that they have, and it kind of reminded me in some ways of like The Alchemist. which I love The Alchemist so much, and I didn't like this one as much, but I think I wound up giving this one 3 stars. Yeah, I gave this one 3 stars, and I gave the first one 4, so I'm hoping that there are more in the series, but I don't know. We'll see. Next, I read a really weird book called Come Closer by Sarah Gran. So last month I read, what was it called? That really, really weird book by Sarah Gran. Oh, The Book of the Most Precious Substance by Sarah Gran, the one that was like Ninth Gate. And I thought, I'll give her another try because I liked her writing style, and I still do. I guess it's just really the plot I'm not as much of a fan of. It's a story about a person who gets possessed like by a demon. And I read it because Kayla from Books and La says it's really interesting to see like from the point of view of somebody being possessed. And I'd read My Best Friend's Exorcism by Grady Hendrix, which of course is kind of Stranger Thingsy, and it's more lighthearted and funny. There's serious stuff in it too. But it's from like the best friend of the person who's being possessed, and this is from the actual person who is. So it was fine. I gave it 3 stars. It was really short, but I mean, I thought there was going to be a twist ending or something exciting and different and new and unique, and there just really wasn't. It's basically exactly what you would expect it to be. Then I read just something really off the walls. Clean Sweep, which by Ilona Andrews, I don't even know how to say it, which was an adult fantasy that was short, and I wound up giving it 3 stars. It's in a series of there's 5 of the books so far? Yeah, there's 5 in this series so far, and it was kind of funny. It was like sort of like Dresden Files, but with, witches. It was fine. It was whimsical and charming, and I did like the world building because it is not just fantasy. It's also got some sci-fi elements. Like, it turns out the vampire characters are actually aliens, and that's like where vampires came from, and same thing with werewolves. And so yes, there's vampires and werewolves and witches, but there's like reasons why they exist. It's not magic. It's because they came from another planet. And then she's an innkeeper who runs this quaint little inn, and it's like a place for travelers to come to be safe, and like even good guys and bad guys, anybody can come there and be safe. And she's got powers, and her broom can turn into different things, and I don't know, it was pretty fun. I liked the world building. I didn't care as much about the plot or really I like the main character just fine, I suppose, but the werewolf character I didn't really care for. I guess there's gonna be a romance between her and the werewolf eventually, but anyway, it was fine. I might continue the series one day. If the second one gets a little bit better, then I would definitely keep going. If the second one's just also kind of 3 stars, then I'll probably stop. Then I read Atomic Habits by James Clear, which was the nonfiction book. I'm doing a whole vlog on this one to see if it's going to help me to get rid of one of my bad habits, so stay tuned for that. Not sure yet if it's working or not. The habits it's mostly about building good habits, and it's not little habits. It's like big things, like if you want to work out or just like be successful, and not so much about like little habits, which is I guess what I thought it was, because I'm trying to get rid of like a little bad habit. So anyway, I'll let you see the vlog and see what you guys think about whether I'm successful or not, but 3.5 stars is what I gave it. Then I read House of Hunger by Alexis Henderson, which is sort of like a horror / fantasy / kind of like gothic thing. And I gave this one 3.5 stars. I was really disappointed because Kayla from Books and La loved it. She gave it like 5 stars. And who was it? Lexi from Alexander Rosalind also loved it. I think she said it was one of her favorite books of last year on her top 10 list. And I loved The Library at Mount Char, which was also on her top 10 list. So I thought, I'll give this one a try too. And I was kind of disappointed. Like, it was fine. It's sort of like vampires. They're called blood maids, like these people that basically serve vampires. They're not really called vampires, but they like have to drink blood to help like heal their ailments and things. And this girl travels to be a blood maid for basically Elizabeth Bathory is who it is. And she sort of winds up finding out some secrets there, but like nothing much really happens, honestly. Like, I guess it's all kind of vibes and atmosphere, and I just didn't really care that much about the character. I didn't feel like she was a very like 3-dimensional character. She was just sort of there, and like it was fine. But yeah, 3.5 stars. The writing was good. I did like the writing quality, so I think that's why I upped it beyond just a 3. The last 2 books I read, I'll talk about together. I decided to read the sequel since I was reading a lot of sequels this month. I thought I'd read the sequel to Every Heart a Doorway by Shauna McGuire. So I read, what's it called? Down Among the Sticks and Bones by Shauna McGuire. And I read that one first, technically. Then I went back, because I'd already read the other one last year, the first one. So then I went back, and after I read Down Among the Sticks and Bones, I reread Every Heart a Doorway. So I'm counting them both, of course, as books I have read this month. But I just read them in backwards order because I'd already read the first one. Anyway, I wound up still giving the first one 4 stars, but I gave the second one 4.5 stars. It was so good. It follows two of the characters from the first book, Jack and Jill, who are twin sisters, because it's like Jacqueline and Jillian, which is just really funny anyway, right? And they were interesting characters in the first one, although I don't want to spoil it, but I can't even tell you anything about it because it would spoil it. But anyway, let's just say they were very interesting characters in the first book, and this is a prequel, the second one is, to show you where the world is that they went to, because each of these characters has come from a different world, like an Alice in Wonderland or, you know, C.S. Lewis Narnia type world or something. And what happens when those characters come back to the real world, though? And they want to go back and find their doorways again, but they can't. So they go to this school for other children who are kind of lost, literally called this. They're called the School for Wayward Children, Miss Ellen, what's it called? Eleanor West Home for Wayward Children, there we go. So this whole series is called the Wayward Children series. So from what I hear, I don't know if this is correct or not, maybe you can tell me in the comments, but I'm pretty sure that each book, like the odd numbered books, 1, 3, 5, whatever, follow characters in the real world, set mostly at the school, and then the even numbered books, like 2, 4, whatever, follow characters in their own worlds that they went to. So I read, of course, the first one set in the real world, which was just really more of an introduction to the world. And then I read Down Among Sticks and Bones, which is set in the world that Jack and Jill went to. And I loved it. They're so whimsical and fun. Oh, they're also short. I forgot to mention that they're novellas. They're not even 200 pages long. So I'm currently reading the third one, and my plan is to read the entire series like ASAP. I think there are, hold on, I'll tell you, 8 right now? Yeah, there are 8 so far, but apparently she's gonna write 1 a year. That's what she's been doing. So hopefully the series continues because I am loving it. So those are all the books that I read in February. Let me know down below if you've read any of these books, if you also felt the same way that I did about them, and I will talk to you guys again later. Bye.